Hi there, my name is Amanda Lamkin. I am the owner of Line by Lion and part of Pixel and Pen Studio, doing the second in my series of Publishers' Pet Peeves. Just like before, please remember that I don't speak for all publishers. I couldn't possibly speak for all publishers. I can only speak for this publisher. And today I am going to be talking about Don't Go Scene Breaking My Heart. Today we're going to be talking about scene breaks. And they are one of my greatest pet peeves. Reason number one, scene breaks are overused. Authors, particularly new authors or emerging authors, tend to use scene breaks like salt. Okay, you know, salt goes in everything. Salt goes in savory things, it goes in sweet things. It can be used in medicine as saline for hydration. It can be used for food preservation. Salt is everywhere, right? And emerging authors tend to use scene breaks similarly in that they are used for everything. When the simple fact is that scene breaks should be like bay leaves or cumin. Right? They're used to enhance, they're used to bring about a certain flavor, but they are not an all-purpose technique. If you use them as an all-purpose technique, then what you are doing is making your reading jarring. Okay? You are pulling your reader out of their suspension of disbelief, and you're just flinging them where they want to go. And the thing is, nobody likes to be flung. Okay, it is not fun to be picked up and shoved. It is not fun in real life. It is not fun in Dungeons and Dragons or other role-playing games where you are being railroaded, right? It is not fun in sports when, say, football, you're trying to push up against someone and they're pushing you and you're the one who's moving, right? It's not fun. And it's not fun when you're reading a book either. Which brings me, I guess, to reason number two. They are a nightmare to format. Particularly since many of the writing programs that people use nowadays have hidden formatting in them, or it comes to you pre-formatted. Then when you try to put them in the appropriate format for our publishing house, what you get is a giant mess. And you get a giant mess that messes with the page numbers. You have to rework indentations, you have to do everything, and when you try to transfer it over to a Mobi file, it's just a mess. And it's not particularly visually appealing inside the book either, right? Because people equate the thickness of the book and the size of the font and the amount of blank space in there with quality, as well they should. And you want a consistent look throughout your book. And scene breaks, too many scene breaks, really mess with that consistent look. They also make the books more expensive for the publisher, which means that they make less money for you. So from a formatting point of view, I hate them a lot. And then there is reason number three, and I think this is the biggest reason. Multiple scene breaks. Scene breaks used like salt and not like cumin are a sign of an undisciplined author. Now you're gonna get mad, and that's fine. You can be mad at me. I can take it. A scene break is a very easy way to abruptly wrap up what you want to say here and move on to the next thing that you want to say. And if used once a chapter, once every other chapter, in a rare occasion, two when it is a definitive stylistic choice, that's fine. But when we're talking consistently 1 to 2 per chapter, sometimes 3 or 4 per chapter, that is a sign of an undisciplined writer, because that means one of several things have happened. Thing number one that has happened is that you did not plan your book out enough to where your chapters are long enough. So what you're doing is you're fitting several scenes, which should by their right be their own chapter, into one. which means that you have not planned. You have not fleshed out the scenery. You have not fleshed out the characters, or you have not fleshed out your plot enough. Because if you had, you would be able to fill a chapter with a scene. The second thing that has happened, possibly, is lost on me right now, so I'm going to sit here and hope that Martha will. Something else that may have happened is kind of on the other side of that same coin. And what that means is that you were able to murder one of your children. I mean, it's a good thing. You shouldn't murder your children in any sort of realistic day-to-day sense. But in your writing, you need to be able to do this, right? What I'm saying is something has happened that you think is important. It is not important enough to warrant its own scene, but you think it is important enough to include in the book. And that is a sign of lack of discipline, because either you need to just take it out and find a different place to put it, or you need to take it out altogether, or you need to be able to flesh it out. But just leaving it in there is this 2-3 paragraph, 1 maybe 2 page scene in the middle. It's lazy writing, y'all. It is lazy, and it benefits nobody. Or it is also possible, and this kind of piggybacks off that idea, that you just are stuck in a certain chronological style. Maybe you think you have to tell everything exactly as it happens chronologically, but you don't, right? This is your world. You are free to do whatever you want. So if you want to tell one whole scene in one chapter and then move to the next chapter and retell it from a different point of view or a different character's perspective, or if you want to jump forward in time or backwards in time, so long as you do it in a coherent and interesting manner, you're perfectly able to do that. There is nothing that says that you can't. But if you're stuck in the concept that you have to tell everything exactly as it happens chronologically, then one, you're not being as creative as much as you should be, can be, could be. And two, you're going to end up with a lot of scene breaks, which are just going to be annoying for your readers. So, with all of that being said, this is my recommendation on how to not scene break my heart. Really get to know everything about your book. You should know what the characters do when they go home at night. You should know where in the town where it's set the teenagers go to make out. Not that I know where I used to make out, because I wouldn't have done that, right? But if I had, I would still remember and be able to describe that place. And you should be able to know what the laws of physics are in this world, right? Like, I'm not asking you to be a physics major. I'm not asking you to be a mathematician, but I'm saying, is your world, if it is set in a speculative fiction sort of setting, do you know the physics? Do you know how magic works in there? Because you should. And this allows you to add more description. It allows for your characters to go off script, as it were. And so that is something that you can do. Another thing that you can do is read your book with a dedicated and skeptical eye. We live in these worlds. We live in them for months, or we live in them for years. We know everything about them, or at least you should if you followed my first piece of advice, right? And so there are things that we assume that the average reader would know about our world or would know about our characters, and they don't. They don't unless we tell them. Don't be afraid to tell them. Okay, I don't mind paying extra for putting words on a page. I mind when I'm paying extra for jarring, breaking the immersive qualities of the book blank spaces. But if you have something to say, then for heaven's sake, say it. And if you are too attached to the book and too invested in the book and too in the book itself to look at it with a skeptical eye, then you need to find some other people who can, and you need to listen to their advice, which is incredibly hard. And the third thing that you can do is be creative. Understand that the only rules that you're bound by are yours. And if you do these things, you're going to create a book that I personally would be happier to publish, and that hopefully your readers would be happier to read. So that's my publisher pet peeve rant of the day. I hope you enjoyed. I'd like to hear your input in the comments. What do you think about scene breaks? What are your pet peeves? Do you have any that I should know? Thanks for visiting. Bye.